Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome to another live edition of Coaching from the Couch. I am your host, CWall. And as always, and every Thursday, I absolutely can't wait to get into the conversation about all of our favorite sports teams in the DMV. You guys, come on in the virtual room. We have a lot to discuss as always. Make sure you all are checking in so I can see that you're here and shout you all out. It is always a pleasure and an honor to join you all. I see Sabrina's checked in. Jason's checked in. Cameron Mingo has checked in. I'm going to tell you, you guys are right here in the Washington metropolitan area, the most loyal of fan bases on the globe. So I'm going to continue to tell you all that and share that with you all. I see my PR specialist, strategist, the most amazing Dr. Leilani Malin has checked in. Make sure you all say hello to Dr. Malin. Damon has checked in. I see others checking in. You guys, I always have to give a moment for everyone to start getting in to the virtual room. Because as we all know, when is there a dull moment in DC sports? That would be never. Absolutely never. So with that being said, I want to make sure you all are sharing this show with your DMV sports loving family and friends. Make sure you are sharing the show. We're talking Caps, Mystics, Nats, Wizards, and the Washington football team. So make sure you all are checking in and sharing this show because I always have a lot to talk about. And I know you all are especially tuned in, Wizards fans, because you know very shortly this will be the Wizards finale drag. Everyone say hey to Faye. And also everyone check in and say hello to Mama Waller. My mom has checked in per usual. Per usual. So you all listen, as always, got a lot to discuss. Let's go ahead on and get to the conversation. Caps fans, check in. Washington Capitals fans, please check in. You all. I started this conversation last week because we know that the Washington Capitals had yet another first round exit in the playoffs. So listen, there isn't really any updates, right? So I'm just going to say no news must be good news, right? Because what we started to talk about is the great and amazing and legendary Alexander Ovechkin. His contract has now expired. We started talking about this, you guys, and remember I told you all before, this is a storyline we need to be tracking. We need to be seeing what's going on. We need to see what people are saying because, hey, what's going to happen in this offseason? It has the potential to be a big offseason of changes for the Washington Capitals, but we have been assured by monumental owner Ted Leonsis, been assured by Caps general manager Brian McClellan that Ovi is not going anywhere. As I've shared previously on the show, Alexander Ovechkin is his own agent. He represents himself. So we got to see what's going on. We got to see what's happening. As I was going through and getting more information on the story, I absolutely saw reports of sources sharing that the Caps are considering multiple options for Ovi's new contract, including a 1-year deal or a 4-year deal that would align with Backstrom's deal. We know that Backstrom just recently signed, not too long ago, his extension. So because Backstrom signed his, the team has been consistent in saying they absolutely anticipate re-signing Ovi, understanding that Ovi has already spoken and said he wants to retire a Washington Capital. As I've mentioned on the show previously, Ovechkin continues to show his commitment and his support to the DC community, to DC sports. He and his wife have recently become investors in the Washington Spirit. So I think it is ever so important that we keep those things in mind. Ovi has put his foot down in terms of his house and where he wants to be and where he wants his stomping grounds to be. He wants to stay in the area and stay connected to the area. So I think all of those things are important. As Sabrina has shared below, we definitely have to continue to track this story. Ted Leonsis, as I mentioned a moment ago, has been adamant about re-signing Ovi. Been absolutely adamant. So, let's keep watching it. I'm going to bring it up, y'all. Just so you know, every single week, I'm going to be like, well, no news is good news. Well, nobody said anything else. I mean, granted, the season has just ended. Just ended for the Caps. The hockey season still continues. So maybe everyone's taking a rest, a little bit of relaxation, vacation perhaps. But yet and still, this is very important, folks. So let's keep our eyes and ears open on it for certain. For certain. Nats fans, check in, please. Where are the Nats fans? I see my aunt. It's also my godmother, Miss Julia Tarpley, has checked in. I see John Adams, one of the biggest DC sports fans in the area, has checked in. Everybody, Nats fans, where are you? So let me first say this, Nats fans. Let me first say this, okay? And I've been kind of avoiding this conversation because I always try to wait until late May to bring this up. But if we're being real honest right now about the Nats, now I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get too much into it. But if we're being real honest, the Nats are 23-30 right now, okay? They're not doing so well. See, before, a couple weeks ago, I said, hey, maybe it's too soon to panic. Maybe we won't complain just yet. But Nats fans, and Wallace, I see your comment there, they're not doing so great. So we'll start to get into this a bit more, right? Because this is important. This is important. We know, yes, a few years ago, the Nats had a terrible record and they came back to win the World Series, and all of that is absolutely important and critical. But this isn't good. I'm just going to have to start laying it out there. But not this week. Not this week, because we have so much more to talk about and discuss. But we'll be full-fledged into baseball season. They got to do better. They got to do better because it's not looking promising right now. Not at all. On the bright side, the Washington Nationals promotions calendar is out. So I want you to go online if you haven't already and checked it out. Here's some important dates that you probably want to take note of if you plan on going out to the ball game. They always got some great gifts out at Nats Park. So the Davey Martinez bobblehead, that's going to be given out on June the 28th. They'll have their annual fireworks, 4th of July weekend. The Ryan Zimmerman bobblehead, that's on September 3rd. The National zip-up jacket. The jacket looks really nice. September 13th, and then the Nats beanie. If you want a beanie, it'll be out in time for the fall and the winter, October the 2nd. So again, those were just some dates for some promotional items. You know that the promotional items are always distributed to the first few thousand fans that enter the park. So if you get there early, you can get first dibs on these great gifts. So just wanted to mention that, because before we get into any drag of the Nationals, see, we can't drag too many teams at once. You know, we already got the Wizards that we have to get to in a moment. So I'm going to let the Nats, let's give them another week or two to collect themselves and to get themselves together before we get into really major rants on the Washington Nationals, okay? All right, are you all still with me? Make sure you are checking in, liking, and loving the show, sharing the show with your DC sports loving family and friends, because now we are going to transition to the conversation on the Washington Mystics. Just a couple of updates here. Sydney Weiss, she has a 3rd-degree ankle sprain. She probably will not play this Saturday against the Las Vegas Aces. Tina Charles is also dealing with a nagging injury to her calf. She's not 100%, but is expected to play this Saturday. I know many folks are still been asking about Alina Deladon. She is still not doing any teamwork. There's basically no timeline on Elena's return. Everyone knows that she has been out with a back injury that she's been troubled with for years. So just keep her in your prayers. She is out and about, and she does make an appearance, but she has not been an active participant or a participant at all in practice. So that's an update there. Want to give a shout out to Mystics guard and huge social justice activist Natasha Cloud. She just became the first WNBA player to have a player exclusive shoe with Converse. The shoes were released today. Go online and check them out. They are super dope. Everyone knows, if you recall, when Natasha made the decision last year to opt out of the WNBA bubble, it was Converse, the shoe company, in which she has her endorsements with, that covered her salary. So shout out to Converse, shout out to Natasha Cloud. The other update, as Cameron has shared here in the chat as well, it is Wear Orange Day on Saturday. In an effort to raise awareness on the issue of gun violence, the Mystics and Everytown for Gun Safety have partnered to host the Wear Orange game on June the 5th at the Entertainment and Sports Arena. The game is at 1 o'clock, and it will also air nationally on ABC. If you can get out to the game, please absolutely do. I will always encourage you going to the games because they are super duper fun, and y'all know I'm all about fun. So if you go to the game, the Mystics are wearing orange. You wear orange, even if you're sitting at home. Wear your orange, take a picture, tag the Mystics, do the hashtags, and still be able to take part even if you're at home. That's a wrap for the Mystics update. Wizards fans, you are up. You are absolutely up. Wizards fans. And Jeffrey Peterson, I see you. Hello, 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 hello. Wizards fans, check in. It's okay. It's okay to give a like or a love emoji on the Wizards. It's totally fine. You all, we are here at a moment that we knew was forthcoming. And that moment is the end of the Washington Wizards basketball season. As we all know, they were in playoffs. They were able to make the playoffs. And I'm going to see how this goes. I'm trying to process it in my mind as I go through the run of show. the Wizards did not get swept, and that's all I can say. I said, all I know is this. The Wizards will not get swept, and I must admit, last Saturday, I anticipated a much better game from the Wizards, especially coming back to Cap One, and it was quite disappointing to see them lose and how they lost. That was rough watch. But I said on Monday, I said the Wizards aren't going to go down without a fight, at least at home. Just don't get swept at home. And they didn't. They did win one game in the series. The Sixers, without Joel Embiid, were able to close it out at their home at the Wells Fargo Arena just last night. Now, I think we all can agree that we did not anticipate the Wizards winning this series. We didn't. I didn't. I don't believe that most of you all did either. I will say, however, I was shocked that they didn't put up more of a fight last night without Embiid. I must be very honest and say, I seriously thought the Wizards could take the game at least back to Cap One. Could even potentially take it, 7 games. And Bradley Beal felt the same way. He shared that in the press conference last night, that he still believed that they could have taken the series 7 games. But it went 5. I think it ended in the way that everyone anticipated that it would, with the Sixers being the victors. So it's not surprising in that way. In that way, I was not surprised one bit by who won the series. I was surprised in the manner in which the Wizards lost, because I absolutely believed that they had a great chance to win. The Sixers not having Joel Embiid. But I'm going to tell you, the Sixers are a tough team. We all knew this. We all know that the Wizards have never, in so many years, matched up well against the 76ers. Didn't Seth Curry end up having himself a game? And sometimes he actually does when they play the Wizards. They show up and they show out. And the Wizards went back to doing their normal thing, not playing any defense, getting sloppy with the ball late in the game. And it just ended. It ended. Didn't want to see it end that way, but it ended. So the press conference last night, if you all watched the press conferences after the games, Scott Brooks' presser for me was a little harder to listen to, because I could just tell in his mannerisms and his voice that he was extremely disappointed. Others in the other press conferences, it was more of a, not, while they lost, they weren't defeated, if that makes sense. It wasn't a bad vibe, right? So that was okay. Today, a bit more of the same in the presser with Tommy Shepard and Scott Brooks. Not sure if you all have checked that out. If you haven't, make sure that you do. They're not taking any questions right now, and I don't blame them for not doing this, but they're not taking any questions right now on the future of Scott Brooks in his head coaching position with the Wizards. Tommy Shepard was very direct in saying, I'm not getting into that today. And I don't blame him. I think that's the right thing to do. No, we're not discussing that with you all today. So I get it. I absolutely get it. I also get Tommy sharing that even he himself has to do better. The team is at least sharing publicly that they are proud of themselves, what they overcame this season. This was a whirlwind of a season. I can say that. Yes, it was a whirlwind of a season, from a couple days, starting from training camp. You got the big Westbrook Wall trade. Then Thomas Bryant going out for the season, the COVID outbreak, the team still being the one team in the NBA that had the largest outbreak of any NBA team, the lingering injuries on several of the other players. It was a lot. And what I will say, let's talk about the positives, right? So from a positive perspective, there's a lot of talk about still the great energy and the brotherhood and just the camaraderie and the encouragement and then playing for each other, which I absolutely believe is genuine. I absolutely believe it's genuine. Of course, I'm going to share, as I always have, Bradley Beal was a bright, consistent spot the entire season. Yet again, yes, Brad has his flaws with his handling of the basketball late in the game, especially on yesterday. But he's still a breath of fresh air, still the apparent leader of this team without question. And I'm very happy and proud of him and all the recognition that he has received all throughout the season. I also want to shout out, as you all have heard me shout out so many times, Russell Westbrook. While, of course, yes, we could talk about turnover machines all day long, but what we saw Russell Westbrook accomplish in breaking the triple-double record is phenomenal. I think it is something that we will never forget. And the fact that he did it in a Wizards jersey, I know I personally will never forget, because that is a huge win for our organization and the franchise that people should be proud of, for certain. And just the caliber of leader and player that he is. He can be so no nonsense, but so compassionate and encouraging at the same time. And it's hard to find that balance. So it is absolutely awesome. And I think that the narrative of him being a negative person or a bad teammate, all of that can get put to bed. It can go to bed. Now, of course, when early in the season or early in his career, things that may have been said or came out, guess what? Everybody's trying to figure out who they are when they're in their 20s. But I think it is very fair and accurate to say, as he has grown and matured in his career, and as a man, a family man, a person of high character, a community activist, and a servant, I think we can all say that that negative energy and that whole persona that folks said he had, that's dead. No, let that go. So I also want to say Daniel Gafford. I thought Daniel Gafford did an amazing job and was an instant contributor to this team. Really enjoyed watching him play and was always a contributor on the court. The Wizards did much better when he was starting versus when he was coming off of the bench. But nonetheless, whether he was starting or coming off the bench, I think that is another trade, because we talk about the Westbrook trade, how Westbrook got here, how Gafford got here, that everyone can say, yes, that was a good move, a positive move, and where we saw an impact and contributions being made. Those were the positives. Those were the positives for certain. Here's where I got lost a bit. I like Rui Hachimura a lot. And I may come back to this later. And I didn't, we got to go through the Wizards season. We got to talk about this. So I'm going to take my time in talking about it. And then for certain, we're going to jump to the Washington football team in a moment, everybody. But with Rui, it was the consistency for me with Rui. I think Rui still has an upside. It was that one of those first West Coast games where I thought Rui just played phenomenal. He was consistent. He was ready to roll. And he was guarding and having to defend some of the top players in the league on that trip. And he did a great job. I'm not certain if Rui was dealing with a lingering injury or what may have happened, but as the season started to go on, he wasn't as strong. And this is gonna go to a point that I'm gonna kind of make now. I haven't seen the development in Rui in which he should be, considering the talent level that he has absolutely not seen it yet. So hold that thought. We haven't seen it yet. I'm going to repeat myself because of the development. But who's in charge of development, right? Who's supposed to be developing these players? I think Rui can be so much more than what we're seeing. So he's being stagnant right now. It's stagnant. But I don't think it's all on him. But hold that thought. Davis Bertans absolutely did not make any level of impact in which he should have this season. Let me just go ahead and say it. I've been dancing around it for weeks, y'all. Y'all know I have. But let me just, when Davis would have a good game, the Wizards would be a force to reckon with. I'm just going to say that. When he would have a good game. But when did he have a good game? They were so few and far between. And given the contract that he received last summer, that contract said to me, Davis, this organization believes in you. This organization believes that you are going to be a consistent contributor at a high level. We know that players can contribute at a high level. Sure, yes, some teams, some players are going to have bad games. Everybody's not going to score 30 points. However, you shouldn't be out here scoring 0 most of the games and most of the times that you're on the floor. Davis was a disappointment, to say the very least, for me. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how that's going to work out. I know that there was so much hope and encouragement about Davis, but come on. He was a non-factor. Let's just go ahead on and say it, right? So that's that with Davis. I'm going to go back to the point I was making about Rui and development. And my final point is coaching. Coaching. Where was it? Now, we know that the players absolutely like Scott Brooks. And I told you all a gazillion times on this show that Scott Brooks is a very nice man. He is kind. He is generous. He has a high character. He's great attitude at all times. Super personality. But when it comes to coaching, in my opinion, I think that's a gift and a curse. Because you have to know how to be nice and encouraging, but also being direct and no nonsense. And I think that's where Coach Brooks may be lacking. Yes, the team went through a lot. Absolutely, for certain. But there were some times where it was very apparent that Scott Brooks was not making any adjustments. He was clearly being outcoached. And it showed. It just showed. It showed. Yes. Toward the end of the regular season, saw some great fight and grit amongst the team. But everyone knows that when the playoffs hit, everybody levels up. Everybody levels up. And Scott Brooks coaching, it did the same old. Getting out coached, not making the correct adjustments in the correct amount of time. And here we are yet again. And I want to go back to the point of Rui's development. I do believe if Rui had a different type of coach, we would see much more out of him and potentially other players as well. That is my Wizards. I didn't even drag them, y'all. Y'all probably thought I was going to drag the Wizards. And I didn't. I just told the truth. That's all. I just told the truth. And we're going to tell some more truth on the Triple W podcast. Make sure you all are subscribed on YouTube and Spotify, because we will soon be doing our end of the season podcast, and we're going to get into some more of this. So more Wizards talk to come. More Wizards talk to come, as always. But that is how I wanted to share and what I wanted to share in terms of closing out the season and my overall thoughts. Remains to be seen if this team stays together. Remains to be seen if Coach Scott Brooks will still be head coach Scott Brooks with this team. We shall see. We shall see. Now, where are the Washington football team fans? Where are all of the Washington football team fans? Please check in. Please check in. Please check in. Washington football team. Washington football team. Washington football team. I want to highlight a couple of things with the Washington football team. And Washington football team fans, are y'all checked in? I only saw like one check-in. Where's the rest of the check-ins? I know y'all ain't here. And I see you, Isaac, checking in. I want to talk about a couple things. Brandon Sheriff, there was a ton of press conferences this week. Two that I want to highlight. Brandon Sheriff, and just some of the things that he was sharing in his presser. If you haven't seen the press conferences, you can go to their Facebook page, the Washington football team Facebook page. You can also go to their website and check in that way as well. Here's just some tidbits and takeaways from Brandon Sheriff's press conference, because I'm only going to highlight two of the press conferences this week, and that's Brandon Sheriff's and defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio's. So, Brandon Sheriff seems to really like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Talks about how funny he is. He's a smart quarterback. Everyone's excited. Talks about how funny he is. That's consistent with what we've been hearing based on all the different teammates he has had since he's played with so many different teams in the league. Of course, the question was asked about Morgan Moses, and all of us know how close Morgan and Brandon are. And, he said, he appreciates him, considers him a friend. They were together for 6 years. They started off at the same, and he just appreciates everything that Morgan did for him. And I thought about this past season when they were doing exit interviews, and it was definitely some somberness between Morgan and Brandon. And I believe, Morgan it was reported that Morgan even shared with Brandon, like, this won't be our last time playing together. And I think at the time, everyone was thinking, oh gosh, Brandon Sheriff is going to leave. Oh gosh, what happens with Brandon Sheriff? And it was just a wow moment for me on how quickly things can change, because it wasn't Brandon Sheriff that was the person out and left. It was actually Morgan Moses. And I actually did not even see that coming myself. But thought it was important to mention that Brandon absolutely shared about his friendship with Morgan, and he absolutely appreciates him and considers him a friend. I thought that was cool. Another thing I thought was important in Brandon Sheriff's presser is just talking about the next man up mentality. I mean, yes, of course, he gave credit to Trent Williams and others that played alongside him in the trenches on the O-line over the years, but he understands it's a business and it's a next man up mentality. He doesn't feel any emptiness per se because other players that he kind of came up with, if you will, are no longer there. He's just ready to play and get better and show improve. You all have probably heard by now his initial impressions of recent draft pick Sam Cosmi. Him strong, fast, very impressed. He's like, holy, you know what? Where did you come from? So that remains a person to watch in Sam Cosmi and coming up, and he'll be learning from folks like Brandon Sheriff and others on the O-line. He said it's not hard. It's not hard to not think about the long-term contract. He's just saying all the right things. Let me say that he's just trying to get better than he was last year, that Coach Rivera tells them every day, attitude, preparation, effort. And so he writes it down every time Coach Rivera says it. So I thought the press conference, I thought all the press conferences were positive. Let me be clear. But this was one of the ones that I wanted to highlight because we all know that we're waiting to hear and see and find out what's going to happen with Brandon Sheriff, if they're going to be able to lock him in long term. So more to come on that. That's one of my kind of stories that I'm always going to say, this is a story to watch. Make sure you're keeping up with it because it's important. It's absolutely important, and we don't want to lose sight of it. Now, Coach Del Rio. Coach Del Rio. Did anyone catch Coach Del Rio's press conference? Check in, check in, check in. Let me ask you all this. Is anybody worried that Chase Young wasn't at voluntary OTAs? And let me be clear. I'm not worried at all. But it seems that folks are worried. So I just wanted to ask you all if you were worried. I'm not. It's voluntary. Any comments there? I don't think it's anything to worry about, you guys. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. But relevant to Chase Young's absence, Coach Del Rio did say that he had spoken with him. That Chase will be joining them shortly. He's been working out, taking care of business. From all of our guys, we have had tremendous participation, and we are pleased with that. We got a lot of work to do, and I think all of our guys understand that. So that's what Coach Del Rio had to say. On what he's seen out of Jamin Davis. Obviously, you want to do all you can to help him develop. It starts with that person being made of the right stuff, and he certainly appears to be that much like Chase. He has been all business. We want him to just dig in, get to work, understand how he fits. He's developing, learning the system, and giving great effort every day while being a good teammate. These are all positive signs when getting started. What was interesting is Coach Del Rio saying he's like Chase and has been all business. I was like, ooh, that's a good thing. Positive thing. Positive thing. Coach Del Rio was asked a question on Cameron Curl. He fits wherever we put him, and he's done a great job of that. He played multiple positions last year and really had a fine year. We expect him to continue to be who he is. He's bright and a good football player and makes good football decisions on the field. He communicates well with his teammates. We just want our guys to work, put in the work, and develop. Roles will be determined. Listen, I must say that Cameron Curl was definitely a bright spot from last season. Definitely a surprise for me, and I'm sure many of you as well. So I'm excited to see what more this team will get out of Cameron Curl this season. So I think those were the two main things that I wanted to share and bring up. You all, we made it another week. Coaching from the couch. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you all are staying safe. Okay, because we know outside is open up. Everything is opening up, y'all. But nonetheless, I absolutely want you all to stay safe. Make sure you all continue to share this show with your DC sports loving family and friends. And I will see you guys next week.